So welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're here. And let's start with taking a look at our project for this unit. And we have here the goal for this particular project is to investigate a major problem that comes with our connection to our beloved devices. As always, I invite you to dig deeply into the scholarly reading and writing process. Regardless of where you are, you can always go deeper, challenge yourself. So we're going to be looking at something completely different. We have moved away from learning power and into the wild, wild west. I am going to take one moment to step back. Did anyone have any questions about the last writing project?
No.
No.
No, you're set? I do want to always encourage you, everybody, I always do this too, to have a few people read your writing before you turn it in. Not every single thing you ever do, but major writing projects. So even I have people who read my stuff before I turn things in. Super crucial things. If I'm sending an email, obviously not. And even the stuff that I write here, I don't check it and then I go, oh, I've got to go fix that. That's okay. But when you are turning something in to be published for a grade or it's for a job or something like that, it's always a good idea. So we have our key texts here. And the key questions for us this time are, how does technology hinder us? And how can we overcome one of the biggest challenges? And so you are writing a problem solution paper where you're identifying the major problem. And this major problem may not be one that is directly discussed in these texts. And that makes that different from our last writing project. These texts are here to open us up to ideas, and you do need to cite at least one of these texts, but you do need to find some outside sources as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about outside sources in a little bit, but your job is to identify a major problem with our connection to our devices. It can be on an aspect of social media, the internet, or just, use of technology. Maybe there's something else outside of that you'd like to discuss. And so you're supposed to get some extra sources. Does anyone have any questions about this particular writing prompt?
I do. So are we? Are we supposed to select any of the text? Like we could use one of them to kind of guide us through it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Not all four.
No, you don't have to use all four. It's just use one or more. Okay. And each one sort of highlights a little bit of something that helps to inspire you to think about a problem, but your problem may be outside of what is written here, but you can use one or more of these as a source to give a bit of background to the problem.
Okay.
Or even the solution, because some of them do offer solutions, some of them don't, right? So you can choose one or more of these to include.
I got a question.
Yes.
So I think it was senior year of high school. I wrote a paper about how social media affects people. So for this project, can I like use that essay as, I guess, a way to help me, or like can I use that essay and improve it and then turn that in? Or
okay, that is a fantastic question, and I'm going to actually kind of back this up a little bit so that we can discuss the whole part of it, because I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is perfect. Different professors have different viewpoints about that issue, okay? Some professors want you to always turn in something brand new, and if you turn in something that's older that you've written even, they consider that plagiarism. I don't consider that as plagiarism, but I will tell you this, that probably what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to highlight the problem and solution separately from your paper in your pre-writing because the prompt is a little bit different. And then once you have your pre-writing in place, I'm okay if you take parts and pieces if they fit in and add that to
Yeah, that's
paper.
what to do. Like, I didn't want to just turn in this essay. I just wanted to take some parts of it because
Absolutely.
I was looking at it, and some of the stuff I wrote about, or some of those things were brought up in what's the name of that article? The first one listed on the
Turkle, Growing Up Tethered.
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Let me just ask you one more question. How long ago did you write it? Was it last year or several years ago? I mean, I'm not thinking it's several years ago, but.
I think it was last year. Let me see.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just asking because with this particular topic, timing matters a little bit more because things are changing so drastically. And what's funny is I've looked at stuff that I created technologically that I use still in my classroom. And I'm like, wow, I used really, really old technology to create these things. It's just so fast. It's like we're on this speeding train and we're holding on to the caboose, and I envision our bodies just holding on as this revolution is going through. So, but yes, I'm glad you asked that, Axel, and I'm absolutely okay with it because I think it's different enough, and it is your writing. I consider your writing to be your writing. So, absolutely.
All right.
I do want to point out that the audience members, I'm not part of this audience, even though I'm going to be grading it. I know that sounds odd, but I want you to focus in to different audience members, those who are the millennials and Gen Z. I'm a Gen X, and you may not be in a millennial either, some of you. And so if you need to take a look, you might want to have, if you have children, have your children read it if they're teens, because I have my kids, look at some of my stuff, and it's so funny. I always think I'm cutting edge, and they look at me and go, "Oh, mom," So I just want to point that out specifically, that it's millennials and Gen Z. And there's a little article I've hooked it in here and here to take a look at what Web 2.0 is. Do you guys know what Web 2.0 is?
No.
No, I don't.
Okay, so
I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, I'm just asking you if you just happen to know it. It's okay that you don't know, you haven't clicked on this yet. It's okay because you're not doing the actual writing just yet. But in approximately 2006, and I remember that because it was the year my daughter was born, so I'll always remember when Web 2.0, and it's not a particular date exactly, but Web 2.0 occurred with the advent of social media, okay? So in the 1990s and the early 2000s, we were able to be on the internet, we were able to meet with one another and that kind of thing. But with Web 2.0, social media and how we connected and how we were able to share things changed drastically. And so we're looking at an issue, a tech problem that has happened since then. Anyway, let's see. One thing I want to point out too, that again, that for this project, I'm looking for you to identify a clear problem and viable solution or solutions from Rereading America, but also finding valid and reliable outside sources, okay? And so we'll talk about that just a little bit, but I think we should talk a little bit about our readings first, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to the questions here. And again, these are questions written by students. But if you have your own questions, I really always want to invite you to add those in. And as always, we're really thinking about how does technology hinder us and how can we overcome one of the biggest challenges, all right? So in growing up tethered, do you have a question beyond these, or is there a particular question you'd like to focus in on? I figure I would take one per text.
I think number one is an interesting question because I think one way or the other, somebody always lies a little bit when it comes to the internet stuff. And I say that for my personal reasons, because a lot of the times when I'm searching for something, sometimes I don't include the like my correct address or a different set of telephone numbers, so they won't be telemarketers won't be haunting me for the next 5 years. So. I know it's not really the right thing to do, but I mean, I think it happens quite a bit.
Okay, so for you, that's actually sort of a solution to a problem, right? So
Yeah.
you're trying to protect your own privacy or trying to have some safety, and so you are purposely putting something incorrect out there in order to do that. So okay, that's fair. Anybody else? I don't know, Ephraim, are you able to talk? I don't know.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
On the first question, I think that everybody lies a little bit, and it's not on the in the way that they want to lie, but even with the profile pictures, I think they're trying to impress or trying to put up the best picture that they have. So it's kind of a lie because
Right.
they're not showing what they are.
Right, right.
I agree with Ephraim, because in that first article, I highlighted something. Well, I can't pull it up. I'm talking on my phone, but
Sorry about that. But you can give us a paraphrase.
it talked about how some females in high school would put their profile picture, but they would make themselves look thin.
Right.
And then if you like zoom the picture, you can see the walls kind of weird because it's like Photoshop and stuff, kind of like what the Kim Kardashians do or whatever their names are. The Kardashians.
Keeping
So
up.
it's like they try to impress people they don't even know.
Right, right, yeah. That is very true. You know, and some people I think try to really put their best foot forward, and then some people try to put their worst self forward in order to gain sympathy or gain money, right? Like with some of the GoFundMe projects, that idea is fantastic. But then how do you know if those are real, right? And so it really takes, you know, with the GoFundMe, if I know someone who knows someone and they're saying, hey, can you take a look, then maybe I might donate money. But other than that, I get a little bit nervous about that sort of thing. All right. Let's look at Seif, the loneliness of the interconnected. All right. Which question would you guys like to talk about?
I would like to talk about I have I need to some feedback on the question number 2 about the if the media creates bias and what the solution could be.
Yes, that is a fantastic question. And I think it really connects in with, they kind of connect in with the other 2 texts about the idea that when we're looking up something online, that you know, our Google accounts, in case you don't know, if you go into Google and you search for something, like at one time I searched for something for my father, and then I got a bunch for weeks on end, a bunch of advertisements and spam email about senior citizens trying to sell me things and that kind of thing. So that's probably slightly off that question, but just the idea of how people use and my dog's gonna bark like crazy. The mail carrier is here. How does how do the powers that be see how we search and create these things just for us to encourage us to buy things? So anyway, okay, so let's, Ephraim, what do you think? Does taking information from social media create bias? What do you think about it? I'm going to turn me off for a minute, but I can still hear you. I just want me off.
I think it does, and we don't really are aware of that, and that's why I was concerned about, and I want to know a little bit more. I'm not into the web a lot, and that was another thing that I wanted to point out when on the first topic that you talk about, because I grew up without internet and without social media, and I wanted to probably talk about it because millennials that don't know what was life before that, and I would like to let him know that it was completely different, and how now the social media has put us all close together, but at the same time apart.
Right. Okay, so gentlemen, what do you guys think?
Wait, you said you didn't grow up with social media or internet, right?
Right.
So do you use it now? Do you like?
I use it just a little bit, not that much. That's why, like with this class, and I told the professor last time, I'm in the class because it is fun. It is challenging to me. I'm learning a lot to search the web and all this, like the Zoom meetings I wasn't used to. Like being on the most that I use is the messenger with the for the communicate with family, and
Yeah.
that's yeah.
Through Facebook, right, and all that.
I don't use Facebook. I just only use Messenger.
Yeah. Well, me growing up, well, I grew up with internet and all that, but I was in growing up, I was in a situation where we didn't really have technology because we struggled with money. So I got to experience having no technology and then all of a sudden having a lot of technology, you know? So I'm kind of in your situation, but in a shorter period of time, because you went from no technology to some technology. And from my experience, I think that technology and social media and all that, it has some pros, but it has a lot of cons because it does cause a lot of drama on the internet through social media. I've noticed because there's like cyberbullying and all that stuff. There's people talking trash on Facebook and on Instagram and all that. So me personally, I try to stay off of social media because there's a lot of negativity out there that I've noticed.
I want to really zoom in on the idea of creating bias. So, do you use social media, Sergio?
No.
Okay, so Axel, I'm going to ask you this question, and that's okay, Sergio. Yeah, that's okay.
Yes.
Axel, okay, so let's talk about social media. So let's say some piece of information comes out on social media. Let's just say, I don't know, there's the recently the whole talks with Kim Jong-un, right? Those stopped. So what kind of thing would be tweeted out or Snapchatted or put onto Instagram about this, would you think?
What? Wait. So about the
So,
news?
so how could they? Okay, so the talk stopped yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a fact. They talked and then they stopped. Okay, there's no spin on what I just said. I'm giving the facts. But how would social media take that and create bias with it is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, so sometimes social media could mix up things because social media is basically people giving their opinion. So let's say you give the fact, and there could be two different people with two different opinions, and honestly, everyone on social media thinks they're like a reporter or something. So then
Right.
they're gonna give their opinion on it, and that opinion could be right or wrong, but that opinion could influence somebody a different way. So that's
Yes.
social media that it's a good place to, I guess, give news about the world, about the country, whatever, but also people giving their opinions can influence people in a right or in a wrong way, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to explain it.
Right. No, you're doing a fantastic job. So a fact comes out, okay, and even different news outlets are known as being more progressive or more conservative, right? And so they're going to share what they know, but they still have some journalistic responsibilities, right? They have to have the source and then a backup source before they put something out there. But then you get somebody who has a lot of followers. They may be celebrities in their own right for other things, or they may be celebrities on social media, and they hate Trump or they love Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they take something that was put out there and then they put their spin on it and they pass it out to all their followers. And then their followers go, oh my God, I didn't know XYZ happened. And then they shoot that out to all of their followers. And it goes on and on and on and on. And if you are following, let's say you are progressive and you're only following progressive people, or you're conservative and you're only following conservative people, then all you are ever getting is not even the first story often, but the second or third rendition, and it's creating a bias that you don't even know you're getting, right? So did you ever play telephone when you were a kid with your buddies? I mean, I did as a girl with my little girlfriend.
I was about to bring that up, the whole telephone thing.
Yeah, where the goal was you told something, you said a message to the person next to you, and then they would hear it one time, then repeat it, then repeat it, then repeat it, and about 5 or 6 or 10 people down the line, you would see what silly, garbled message came out, which usually was nothing like the original message, and we would giggle. So we would laugh. We would think that was great fun. But this is what social media, that's kind of the visual of social media. So when we think about creating bias, is that if we're not questioning the source or double checking the sources ourselves, or going to a news source who we have found to be valid and reliable several times, then what we're getting is the bias without any of the critical thinking to go with it. It's like this frenzy, right, of things that, and that's where you get these hoaxes from. Like last night, my husband was telling me about this Momo thing for kids, and it's this thing, it's a hoax, and we did not know it until he finished reading the whole article, and we had this conversation with our daughter about there's this thing where they break in and they tell kids to do bad things or kill themselves, and they're splicing themselves into YouTube. And then we get to the bottom of it, and it's a freaking hoax. And my daughter goes, so what am I here for? Why are we having this conversation? Because he found something online that somebody at work had been talking about. He looks at it online. He doesn't recognize it's a hoax. But, and it was okay that we had the conversation that, that if something like this happens, they're trying to, do this and that and the other thing. But we really, really have to protect ourselves from people taking advantage of us in all sorts of different ways and giving us wrong information.
It's the typical rumor that gets created in a workplace or in a school. And, when you're talking about being biased, I guess the world is beginning to believe everything that they read on the internet.
Yes.
And that is becoming a problem without confirming anything. Just because somebody says it on the internet, it must be true.
Right.
And that is one of the biggest problems that I could see when it comes to the use of the internet, and especially when the kids have privy to all this information, because they believe everything they see. And if we don't change that, then it's going to be a bigger problem, because we're not going to have a mind of our own later.
Right. And it already is a magnificent, not as in great, but a huge, gigantic problem that is very difficult. And I think that I'm going to be showing you a PowerPoint in a minute. Are you guys okay to stay for 15 more minutes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because I want to get to the PowerPoint, because it talks about how to look at these sort of sources. Okay. So with Boyd, inequality, are there any particular questions or a question that you would like to discuss?
So what we were talking about relates to the question number 2, where it says social media magnifies these problems, because like as you say, we're playing with a telephone game. It's kind of a small, because we didn't have the internet, and even though we know, like as a human, we have some issues, we don't think alike. So now being in the web and social media, it gets a bigger of a problem, because now it's millions of people thinking on a different ways and saying words on a different meaning, and we don't have the power to find out if it's right or wrong.
Right. And did somebody else want to say that?
I think it magnifies that problem.
Right, makes it bigger. Absolutely. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna. Go ahead. Axel, go ahead.
Oh, never mind.
No, never mind. Go ahead. What were you gonna say, darling?
No, I was just gonna read through the questions again.
No, but you were gonna move on to the next one, right?
Well, I was gonna say one thing about this one, about magnifying different aspects of life. I think that social media has magnified emotional problems that people have. And I listened to recently the percentage of teenagers who feel like that the biggest problem there is dealing with anxiety. And I think part of the problem with anxiety among teens is that they're reading more and more about anxiety, and the social media is just saying, if you have this, you have anxiety, and if you have anxiety, then this is a big, bad, unmanageable problem, but we'll try to help you. But it really is, you know what I mean? Where I think it plays on aspects of certain parts of people's lives that maybe they wouldn't focus on so much, even if they had it, right?
Mhm.
So, and that could be like if somebody has a spot, you know, on their face, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've got cancer, and they're looking up WebMD, and oh my God, I've got this and like they're worrying about this cancer, and then by the time they get to the doctor, that they're anxiety ridden. So if we talk about anxiety, I really think that social media increases that in people, because people are looking at these things in a way that where you're focusing in on just something really tiny instead of just getting on with things.
There's a symptom for everything, you know.
Yes.
Just like you mentioned with your dad, you know, you were checking on something that probably happened to him, and you're trying to make sure that he is okay.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, when you do that, now you have 3 different, I don't know, different sites telling you, well, top 20, top 10 symptoms of
Yes.
different illnesses that may occur to you, and then you start reading them, and you're like, oh shoot, I fall under every category. So now I might be crazy, or I might be this, or I might be that.
Right. I should be locked up, dead already, right?
Yeah.
Because of
So,
all the problems that I
it's
have,
just,
right?
and everything gets so big about nothing, you know. So
Right. And it's not to say that these are not real things. I'm not saying that there's no such thing as real anxiety. I'm not saying there's not any of these things are not real, but I think social media magnifies them to such a degree that everybody's got these problems. And people who may not have even worried about whatever their quirky quality was, now is like, oh my gosh, I've got this quirky thing. It must be this. I must fix it. As opposed to just saying, you know, we're not perfect. We just go out and give the best that we can
let's just deal with it one day at a time.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's look at the last 4 questions from Andrews, George Orwell. Meet Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, I think this is a very serious problem that we have, in my opinion, based on the privacy issues, because these big companies hide themselves under the little fine print of any type of law to get away with taking our information to sell it just to make money. I mean, the bottom line is a moneymaker. The more information they have, what do they say? Power is information, or information is power. I think you said that in one of our things. And the more you have, the better you're going to be. And I think a lot of that, it could partially be our fault, because we enter everything into the internet.
Yes.
We don't keep anything behind anymore. We think it's secure, but it's not secure. So hopefully we could have some sort of result for that, but who knows?
Something about that privacy thing. I don't know if this has happened to any of you guys, but there's just one time I was talking about getting a dog with my dad, and I think it was a couple days later, maybe 1 or 2. I started getting ads on my phone about dog food.
Really?
Yeah. And then my dad mentioned to me that that's happened to him before, where he talks about something and then he gets ads for it like the next day.
Talks about it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, do you have that Google Home or that Alexa?
No, I have an iPhone, but I don't
I
know.
wonder if that is weird, because we have a Google Home that we've had for a year and a half that I spent a couple $100s on. We have not set it up yet because my husband and I are still worried that with privacy, right? And it's insane, right? That's insane. So that is an interesting thing. So our phones here, I wonder if they're just like interesting because wow.
Like at first I thought I was just like, I was going crazy, you know, but it's happened more than once now. So.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if the phones could hear you now or something.
All right. So I'm going to say, okay. So I want to get a cat. So cat, kitty, baby kitty. I want to get a cat. So I'm going to look now. I want to get a cat. I wonder where I should go. Let's see if the phone. Okay. That's interesting.
If you go on YouTube and I forgot what I searched up, but because I thought I was going nuts when this happened to me. So I went on YouTube and searched up, oh, do phones listen to you? Does Google listen to you? And then some guy did an experiment where he talked about something, and on his computer he got an ad for that specific thing. So then I knew that
may be something you might want to write about, Axel. Yeah, I'm not saying that you don't have to write about the other thing, but that might be something. I'm curious to see if there's something written about that. That is really fascinating, and that would be unique. That for sure. I will have never read something about that. Wow. All right. So I'm going to take a few minutes with a PowerPoint here that another lovely professor created that I adapted for our own use. And I'm going to go through it kind of quickly. And then if you have any questions too, you know, please feel free to jump in. But the idea for sources that if you're going to say something or you're going to make a claim in academics, you always need backup and support. You cannot just say that something is without backup, although social media does it all the time. All the time. All right. Oops. Let's see. Oh, I'm trying to arrow it, and it's not letting me. I don't know why. Oh, that's weird. My arrows aren't working, but something else is. Okay, so finding the right source. Let's see if this works. It needs to be reputable. And one of the reasons why the library is at Cerritos College is such an important place to go find sources is that they do a lot of the work for us. And thousands of dollars are spent every single year to be able to have the right to look at reputable sources through Cerritos. However, if you're not sure, you can, you know, .orgs, .edus are even better. Even so, some other sources are okay, but you need to look at them carefully. They need to be put through a strict vetting, critically examining process. If you use it, you are vouching for its validity, right? That it's factually sound to the best of your ability. All right. So there are 6 questions for you to vouch for your resources, for your sources, like who made this, who's the author or publisher, who is telling you the information. It's really important to know, because if you're getting the information from a source that is not considered to be reputable, or they're considered to be super biased in a particular way, then you know that you need to look for other sources to back it up. So such as martinlutherking.org. Okay, so here's some information from martinlutherking.org. It says true historical examination, so it must be legit. At a quick glance, you know, it seems like there's some good information here. There's some things that he's written. Oh my gosh, it's not letting me go forward. Let's see. I'm going to escape here. I don't know why. It's not letting me go through the way I need to go through. It talks about learning more about Kwanzaa. And then I can't see what it says at the bottom, so I'm going to move forward. But who's the author? So you need to look at that. Okay, so if the author is somebody that's a white supremacist organization, if they created this information for martinlutherking.org, so at first it looks like it's good, but it's a white supremacist group, you can't vouch for the source, okay? If it was created by a .edu, then yes. So this is interesting because you look at Martin Luther King and you're like, oh, that looks good. It has, you know, some promising things here. But if you see that this is the group that created it, you can't vouch for it. So a second question is, how was this made? How was the research conducted or the data gathered? Because a lot of times you could get two different places who ask for two different types of data, or, you know, they say they have this research, they've done it in different ways, and they have two different results or three different results or more. So this is really important as well, because sometimes the questions or who is asked or how, you know, how many people are asked or the way that they're asked. So it's always a good idea to question someone's conclusion. Okay, so we have Wikipedia here. I love Wikipedia. In fact, I donate a few dollars to Wikipedia every year, but is a hot American actress. So, okay, I think I can safely say no research was conducted to come up with this conclusion, and so you can't vouch for this. All right, why was this made? Presents cold hard facts, allows the facts to speak for themselves, has no bias, is not in favor of one side or the other. It tries to be objective. I don't think there's any such thing as being 100% objective, but they try to take out as many things that add subjectivity or partiality or bias. You try to take out as many as you can. So we have another website here, the Food Safety, who Centers for Disease Control and Prevention there. Here I am trying to get it to move forward. Oh, there it is. Okay, a .gov address can usually be trusted. All right, CDC estimates that each year 48 million people get sick from a foodborne illness. This site is just presenting facts about food poisoning. So you can vouch for this particular source, right? It's just facts. Another question is, when was this made? Sometimes you do want stuff that is older. There are times when you want stuff that is older, that is written that's older, such as if you're using primary sources about something. But a lot of times with academic research, you really try to get the most up-to-date research within the last 7 to 10 years or so. And it is true that research, specifically with this topic, 20 years ago, the research is so different than what was done in the last 5 years. All right, so reasons for admission from 1864 to 1889. Menstrual deranged. So probably women weren't allowed to be in, fever and jealousy, etc., etc. This is this is a lunatic asylum. So women with their period, they get upset. Imaginary female trouble, hysteria, ill treatment by husband. So if you've been abused, you get turned in.
I sent you a file. It's called the crap test. We used it in our high school. It's to see if a source is trustworthy to use. I don't know if you want to look at it.
I do. I absolutely will. Are you okay if I do it after this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, after our meeting is over, and then I'll send out a response for sure. Okay. Okay, so none of you will have a source from this far back, but it goes to show you research done back then. At some point, someone used this to admit a woman against her will to a hospital. So yes, sometimes information is used to hurt people, to steal money. So it's really important to obviously get up-to-date, valid, reliable research. Here's another source from Scientific American, where transgender is no longer a diagnosis. This is a trustworthy author, and it was written in 2017. And it's a fact right here, becomes the first country, okay? All right, so this information, this source points to troubling thoughts about American scientific research, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. There's in 1973, 2013. And this particular slide goes into more detail about a source and who's doing the research and what kind of research is being done. So these are things to think about so that you can look at your sources and make a decision. And again, you're going to do the best that you can. And Axel did the right thing about sending a source to me to get some ideas and feedback. And you can always ask the librarians as well. All right. Another question is, what is missing from the story? Research is, is there an objective tone? There should be nothing key missing. And then finally, is the source trustworthy? What does the source stand to gain from you using it? That's always a big question. What's the motive? All right. This is from the Goodfellas. Yeah, I'm going to move forward. Okay, so here are the questions again. Who made this? How was this made? Why was this made? When was it made? What's missing? And is it trustworthy? Okay, so I went through this really quickly, really quickly. Are there any questions about this?
And we don't need to answer any of those questions when we present those I guess, sites where we find additional information, right?
No, these are for you.
Just for us to check.
For you to decide if it's a good source or not. But when you do introduce a source, you usually say who created this,
okay.
And if it's relevant, the year that it was created. And you may even say why. But you don't need to say, but it's trustworthy. You don't have to say that. But this information right there, who wrote it, and any information that we need about the source. And we're going to be talking about that in our next Zoom meeting, where we're looking at writing a rhetorical précis, which includes this information as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to try. Okay, good. I'm able to leave. All right. So here we go. So we're back here, and I actually want to go here to our handy dandy calendar. Cannot believe we are finishing up with our 7th week.
Yep, it goes pretty fast.
Yes. So right here, there we go. I'm going to be taking a look at that, Axel. Okay, so you're going to be turning in your Wild Wired West text set assignment by tonight. and then your first post for the Reflective Writing Club. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts?
There's nothing due for the blog post?
Yes. Yep, there is. Did you do the first blog yet, Axel?
Yeah.
Then yeah, nothing's due, but you can get that second one done as soon as you've read all the texts.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And when is the next meeting?
Our next meeting, let's see, I don't want to tell you something that's not true, so I'm going to double check on our front page. Wednesday, 3/13. Is that too far out?
No, I think it's good. I think.
All right. So actually, I think what I may be doing for the rhetorical précis is I'm sending you more detailed presentation of it. I was thinking we were going to do it in a Zoom meeting, but I decided against it. So, but you'll have real detailed information about how to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm glad you asked that, Ephraim. So yeah, it's not quite 2 weeks away, 12 days away. All right. Okay.
So what's for lunch?
Yeah. Go have lunch. And thank you for being here, and I hope you're in the next one. I enjoy seeing you gentlemen, and hopefully we can get some other people to join us that day as well.